The world does not collapse in a single explosion. It fractures slowly, at negotiation tables, on military maps, inside the wallets of ordinary people. When the media talks about Ukraine, NATO, and Russia, the public is often guided toward a simple story. Who attacked? Who was attacked? But geopolitics is never that simple. What we are witnessing today is a clash of systems, not merely a clash of nations. The United States has stood at the center of the post-Cold War global order. NATO became its primary instrument, effective, powerful, but not neutral. When a single power dominates for too long, the world does not become stable. It becomes tense. And out of that tension, Russia re-emerged. Not as a hero, not as a sacred victim, but as a counterweight that cannot be ignored. This is where the real story begins. NATO is often described as a defensive alliance. On paper, that is correct, but in practice, NATO moves according to Washington's direction. Eastward expansion, new bases, new weapon systems. For some European states, this means security. For Russia, it means permanent pressure. The United States does not need to fire a single shot to create a crisis. It only needs to expand influence, to position power. This is where many analysts begin to ask difficult questions. Is NATO still a collective alliance, or has it become an extension of U.S. strategy? When tensions escalate, European countries absorb the consequences. Higher energy prices, economic pressure, rising refugee flows. Meanwhile, the key decisions are made far from Europe, in Washington. This is what some analysts call structural aggression. Not aggression with tanks, but aggression through systems. Russia is often portrayed only as an aggressor. That portrayal is incomplete. Russia is the largest Arctic power. Its territory is real. Its presence is permanent. In the Arctic, including Greenland, Russia is not a visitor. It is a principal actor. When the United States expands its interests in this region, Russia is the only actor that forces Washington to recalculate, not through rhetoric, but through capability, naval power, geography, strategic military capacity. This is why many analysts say that if anyone can restrain unilateral U.S. moves, it is Russia. Not because of goodwill, but because of balance of power. In the real world, stability is not born from intentions, it is born from calculation. Ukraine is a humanitarian tragedy. No analysis should erase that fact. But for the United States, Ukraine has always been a proxy conflict, not an existential war. As costs rise, as nuclear escalation risks loom, priorities begin to shift. Aid slows, language changes, focus moves elsewhere. Is this fear or strategic restraint? Many analysts read one message clearly. The United States is not prepared for direct confrontation with Russia, not because Russia is unbeatable, but because the price of victory would be too high. On the other side, Russia demonstrates endurance, economic adaptation, industrial mobilization, narrative consolidation at home. This is not about who is morally superior. It is about who is prepared for a prolonged confrontation. Greenland legally belongs to Denmark. Strategically, it exists within America's orbit. Europe lacks the hard power to decisively resist this. The European Union is not a unified military force. NATO remains U.S.-led. Here, the paradox emerges. European security depends more on global balance than on pure sovereignty. Russia understands this vulnerability. That is why Moscow periodically sends signals of dialogue toward Europe, not because of racial nostalgia, not because of blood ties, but because of interests, energy, security, regional stability. Russia does not seek to assist NATO. Russia seeks a Europe that is not entirely controlled by Washington. There is a fundamental difference. Behind maps and strategies, there are people, Ukrainian civilians, European households facing inflation, Russian families living under sanctions. Geopolitics often forgets one truth: no population chooses to become a pawn. Black and white narratives simplify propaganda, but they complicate peace. Recognizing Russia as a counterweight does not mean justifying every action it takes. Criticizing the United States does not mean opposing the American people. Humanity demands one thing above all: analytical honesty. Because wars built on distorted narratives are always paid for by civilians. At this point, one thing must be clear. This video is not a call to hate, not a call to choose sides, and not a justification for war. This is an invitation to think together. Because the world is too complex to be understood from a single angle. The United States is not a singular villain. Russia is not a savior. Both are great powers driven by great interests. And as always, those who suffer the most are not the ones in strategic rooms. They are ordinary people, children, families, civilians who never chose this conflict. If we want a more humane world, we must be willing to question, to challenge official narratives, and to confront reality without hatred. If you believe analysis like this matters, if you value discussion that avoids black and white thinking, that does not shout but reflects, support this channel. Subscribe, like, share this video, not to inflate numbers, but to expand the space for critical thought. And one final note, this is analysis, not absolute truth, not propaganda, not an instruction to believe. All opinions here are educational, open to debate, and intended to encourage healthy dialogue. You are free to agree. You are free to disagree, but do not stop thinking, because in a world defined by conflict, a free and critical mind may be the last form of humanity we still possess.